This episode is sponsored by Factor. Eating better every day has never been easier thanks to Factor's ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. No prep, no mess, just restaurant-quality food in only 2 minutes. Go to factormeals.com/command50 and use code command50 to get 50% off.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
And I'm Jake.
Yeah!
Yay!
And we're here talking about a brand new universe.
Yeah, this is Universes Beyond Fallout. We're putting these two decks head-to-head to see which one we can upgrade better.
Absolutely. Today we are going to be upgrading both the Hail Caesar Precon and the Scrappy Survivors Precon. We're going to do the normal upgrades we normally do. We spend $50 to put 10 cards in, take 10 cards out. But then at the end, we're going to compare the two and see which one we'd recommend you purchase.
Rachel, let's start out. Are you a big Fallout fan?
No.
Thanks for asking. I am.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Fallout fan. That's the only reason I'm here. I just directed the Game Nights Fallout episode. Mm-hmm. So I watched these decks play out. I've seen them tested a few times and spent 10 hours interviewing people about that same game. So I got some pretty strong opinions about how they play out already.
I love it. We're going to be talking about a lot of Magic cards today, and you can pick up all of those, including these sealed precons, if you decide which one that you want, over at cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom is obviously a huge supporter of the show, and you can support the show by spending absolutely no extra money by just bookmarking that link and using it when you shop for Magic cards. There's a ton of new sweet cards for Fallout, whether you're into Fallout or if you're just mechanically into some of the new stuff that they've come out with. We're going to talk about all of them today.
The reskins and the Vault Boy versions of cards are really cool.
They're really cool. Vault Boy is look, I don't know a whole lot about Fallout, but I've done some research to get ready for these episodes and to sort of understand what the tone of it is. And Vault Boy is my favorite part by far.
Cute. He's like the Mickey D. Mouse of the Fallout.
Mickey D. Mouse.
Yeah.
And you can pick up all of those cards at Card Kingdom. Get them from a place that is professional, packages them professionally, and you can get a huge amount of cards all in one place, shipped to you safely in one package. Again, cardkingdom.com/command.
And buy a Steel Overseer. It's a robotic Overseer. It's the Overseer of the Vault. It's a robot. It's steel. It's a Steel Overseer.
Some of the reskins are
We love
awesome.
Fallout.
Up next, you can support the show by using our second affiliate link over at ULTRAPRO.com/command. ULTRAPRO has the highest quality Magic accessories in the business. You can get sleeves from them, or play mats, or deck boxes, and you can get binders, and they just restocked on the keyword counter dice, which are some of my favorite ULTRAPRO products. They have the flying counter and the hexproof counter, and they're really good for when you're playing Commander. You don't have to, write it down or just remember. You can get all of those over at ULTRAPRO. Plus, they have the officially licensed Magic art, which means that I believe they have Fallout product.
They do. We see it on our show.
Yeah.
It's good looking stuff. It's really fun. There's that cool VATS playmat that's really neat. And then a fun little Vault Boy playmat too. Yeah. It's so fun.
If you're into Fallout, go to ULTRAPRO, pick up those products, and you can really bling out all of your Fallout decks. I know building in-universe is really fun, and you've got to have the playmats and the sleeves and the deck boxes to match. Again, you can do that at ultrapro.com/command. The final way to support us is directly over at patreon.com/commandzone. All of our patrons get early access to game nights and extra turns. You get to see it one day early and bonus without ads.
Our team loves it when the patrons help us out too. Because sometimes they'll catch things and they're like our last line of defense. Mm-hmm. They're a big help. So if you feel like being a part of the cause,
Yeah, catch mistakes before they go out to the public. See the games before the spoilers hit the airwaves. There's a lot of perks to being a patron. Plus, you get access to exclusive content like Turn Talk, which is just a conversation we have after every game of Extra Turns. It's a ton of fun. We get to talk about what we would have done if we had one more turn, if we had drawn this card, or, I was really worried about that, so I played this way. You get to get into the minds of the players, and it's a ton of fun. So sign up at patreon.com/commandzone. Plus, we shout out one lucky patron every single podcast episode, and this one is dedicated to Brennan Huffman. Brennan, You rock. All right, we're going to get into it. We are talking about these Fallout precons today. Again, we're doing 2 precon upgrade guides today, so we're going to move pretty quick. We're adding 10 cards. We're taking 10 cards out. We're only spending $50 to do it. Let's get right into it, starting with the Hail Caesar precon.
Caesar is a big character in Fallout New Vegas, available on computers and video games everywhere.
As far as every video game has.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like this deck. So this is Mardu. This is red, white, black, and it's a token like go wide strategy is what the deck is designed to do, which makes a lot of sense for Caesar, it seems like, because he's like sort of lord of all the little fighter boys.
Yeah, they call him Kaiser. Listen, I've only played a little bit of Fallout New Vegas, but I've heard from plenty of people they call him Kaiser, even though it's supposed to be Caesar. And
Kaiser. Sorry, guys.
So the lore is he's got a bunch of little guys running around doing his bidding and getting their hands dirty for him. But
love it.
The composition of this deck, straight out of the box, it could use some tweaking.
Yeah, so the idea out of the box is it makes a ton of tokens. It has sort of like a small sacrifice sub-theme, some stuff that benefits for when your tokens die. But it also has a lot of ways to make your creatures more formidable in battle. A lot of +1/+1 encounters, a couple of anthems. Before we go any further, I think it's important that we meet Kaiser himself. You want to read us one?
Caesar, Legion's Emperor. It's 1, a red, a white, and a black, 4 mana total for a legendary creature human soldier. It's a 4/4, and it has whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. 1, create 2 1/1 red and white creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking, or you draw a card and lose 2 life, or
lose 1 life.
You draw a card and lose 1 life. Or Caesar, Legion's Emperor deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent.
Okay, so this one's really interesting. You sacrifice a creature to either get 2, and then you clearly want a big board, so you're dealing a lot of damage. Or if you don't have a big board yet, you just draw cards early.
Yeah, so maybe turns 3, 4, 5, and so forth. We're amassing those 2 1/1s, and we're drawing the cards. And then we finally go out for the big bolt. When we need it.
Once you've got that big old board. So I like that he comes down on turn 3 or 4. It does mean that I would think that you want a disposable creature the turn it comes down.
Yeah.
Because Caesar doesn't have to block to trigger himself. It says whenever you attack. So if you have a creature down before him, you can play Caesar, attack with that creature, sacrifice something, and then get that trigger right away the turn it comes down.
We really got to think about the play pattern, too, of when do you ramp, when do you play a creature, when are you playing your commander?
Yeah.
Because you got to work all those things in. You can't be missing out on the nuts and bolts. So this is a tough commander script to figure out for yourself.
So that is the face commander of the deck. Of course, there is a featured commander in every single precon. This one is no different. Its backup commander is Mr. House, President and CEO. Red, white, black for a 0/4 legendary artifact creature human. He's an artifact creature human.
If Jordan was here, he'd be sharing the lore on this guy.
He's on a TV. Whenever you roll 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. If you rolled 6 or higher, instead create that token and a treasure token. Then he has an activated ability that says 4 tap, roll a 6-sided die plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasures spent to activate this ability. I will say right off the bat, there is only one other card in this entire deck that rolls dice, and it's not very good.
Cool commander, not in this deck.
I agree. Mr. House is sort of unrelated.
It does really create a creature token.
It does. Do you really want to be spending 4 to just roll a dice and hope you hit an even and maybe get a treasure? It doesn't. It's not very good to activate, and you don't have reliable access to other dice rolling or even treasure tokens.
If by turn 4 I've spent 7 mana to make a 3/3 and ideally a treasure token and a tapped 0/4. I'm not off to the races.
Feel a little bit slow. So that's Mr. House. We're probably not going to build around him, but we will talk about him as a commander in another episode.
Big part of Fallout New Vegas. Yep. That's all I know. I'll get deeper into the game and I'll get back to you.
We're going to get right into the best cards in the deck. These are the ones that if you draw, you're like, okay, my game plan is online. And like any token deck, the best card in this deck is Skull Clamp.
Ooh, looks like Rachel Weeks wrote this list.
I did.
Skull Clamp's number 1.
If you're making 1/1s like your commander is, if you're sacrificing creatures like your commander is, Skull Clamp is going to be the best card in your deck, regardless of what universe you're in. It's not a very exciting pick for one of your best cards, but I think Skull Clamp is going to tell you what this deck wants to do, which is go super, super wide and turn those tokens into value. The next best card in the deck is Bastion of Remembrance. This is a 3-mana enchantment. When it comes in, you make a 1/1 white human soldier token, and then whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's just a little Zulaport Cutthroat that comes with a free body.
We're going to have a lot of things coming in and out.
Yeah. This says a lot to me. What I like about Bastion of Remembrance is this fits into the curve pretty well. It gives you a token immediately that you can sacrifice to your commander when you attack. So you play this on 3, you play your commander on 4, you attack with the 1/1, you probably sacrifice it, make 2 1/1s, and then draw a card. Now you've drained the table for 1, you've made 2 tokens, you've drawn an additional card, you've lost no life. This just says, like, I get what we're doing here, especially early, and I think this is a very clear engine.
Yeah, it's a great card.
We had to mention a new card, and I do think this card is great, although it is a little funky in this deck. It's Rose, Cutthroat Raider. Do you want to read this one? This one's sweet.
I do. I believe she's a Mr. Handy. So Rose Cutthroat Raider, 2 red for a legendary artifact creature robot. She's a 3/2 with first strike, and she has Raid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you attacked this turn, create a junk token for each opponent you attacked. Whenever you sacrifice a junk, add red. Junk are so cool.
Junk are so powerful. So I really wanted to talk about it because it's going to come up in both of these decks. Junk tokens are artifact tokens that you can sacrifice at sorcery speed, and they impulse draw you a card for this turn. That's so powerful. For free. You don't have to pay to activate that.
Yeah, for free. And anything that's like kind of a silly token just always grabs my eye.
Yeah.
Impulsive drawing is always cool. It is real card advantage. But along the way, I could be using that token for other things that I'll stay brief on.
Yeah. So this is definitely an interesting card in this deck because your commander makes 2 1/1s that are tapped and attacking, so they don't give you an additional attack. Like, they haven't attacked the player they're attacking. So your commander doesn't help you trigger Rose multiple times, but hypothetically the deck will be going wide enough and attacking wide enough that you should be able to get 3 junk tokens off of Rose every single combat.
Yeah, it's a super important distinction in this deck. In particular, you're going to see it a lot, is when something attacks versus coming in tapped and attacking, they don't link up.
Yeah, and there are a lot of attack triggers in this deck that are not triggered by the tokens your commander makes. So it's a really, really important distinction. We spoiled a card that gives tokens training. Training is an attack trigger. These attacking tokens do not trigger training. They will if they survive and untap and attack again. But Rose is a great engine in this deck. I mean, it rewards you for attacking with 3 junk tokens that you can spend now or you can spend later. And then when you crack those junk tokens, you're up mana. That's
the crazy thing, too, because when you're impulsive drawing a card, you are looking at your mana. Maybe I've got 2 mana left. If I impulsive draw something, it's likely I can't play it. So Rose giving us that additional one.
I love this card, and I think it's one of the more powerful cards in Fallout, if I'm honest. So I think we'll see a lot of Rose. I think if she's on the battlefield, you're going to be seeing a lot of cards, which is exactly what you want in a Precon environment.
Kind of like Bergie energy.
It does kind of have, it reminds me of like, yeah, whenever you sack a junk, add red. Yeah, combine this with the new one from whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you add red and put a counter on it. Now we've got a stew going.
Yeah, and throw in KCI too.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So those are the best cards in the deck mechanically. It gives you an idea for what the deck is doing, what you want to be doing, how to progress your plan. Before we go too much further, we do want to talk about the financial value of this product if you buy it off the shelf, which means we're going to talk about the notable reprints in the deck. We're only going to talk about cards that are cost $5 or more at time of recording. In this deck, there are 6 of those.
So, the cards costing $5 or more. Ruinous Ultimatum. $11. Skull Clamp, $11. Pitiless Plunderer, $6.50. Anguished Unmaking, $6. Black Market, $6. That's a surprise.
Yeah, I
And
know.
Fervent Charge, $6.
Yeah, it's Black Market, not Black Market Connections.
Yeah.
It's the Black Market itself.
Maybe that was a typo.
And
We really
Fervent
could use
Charge.
that changeling right now.
This is the first time I believe Fervent Charge has seen a reprint. This is a Mardu enchantment that says whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
Doesn't work with the stinking 1/1s.
It doesn't work with the stinking 1/1s.
Ugh.
It's very strange. It works with all the other 1/1s you have, but it doesn't work with the 1/1s you make with your commander. Still, it's going to be very, very good in a deck that is going wide. Okay, so those are the 6 notable reprints. We're going to talk about the total reprint value for this deck in just one moment, but of course we have some caveats as usual. All of these are taken at time of recording, which is before they are announced. That means this value is going to go down. At time of recording, these decks are pre-ordering for $60, anywhere between $55 and $60 depending on what deck, but we're using $60 as our benchmark. And of course, this only accounts for the reprints in the deck. In Universes Beyond decks, there tend to be fewer reprints because they've made more new cards. So there's only 49 reprints in this deck. So you look at this number through a lens knowing that it has, 20 fewer reprints than a normal Precon would. All of that out of the way. The total reprint value of this deck is
$91.50.
okay. Under $100 doesn't feel good,
No.
especially for a Precon that costs $60 off the shelf.
Maybe this is just for the Fallout player.
Yeah,
Or-
I think that's something to keep in mind here is like all of these reprints are reskinned with Fallout art. So they're one-of-a-kind printings.
I don't know if you have that feeling when you're building a deck and it's Universes Beyond. Like, I'm going to go beyond as I can with this universe.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the time, I'll say, hey, I want to make a Mr. House deck. I'm buying the deck just to get started on the basics and all the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So this is going to give you all the basics for your Fallout deck. But I would say if you're picking this up just for financial value, there's not a whole lot there. It is acceptable, I suppose. It's with 49 reprints in the deck. We did a little bit more math to give you some more information. That means that each reprint is worth an average of $1.87. I will let you know that is below average for all of the Precons in 2023, which was $2.07, but not significantly below. So if you're in it for the new cards, I think you're in for a treat. If you're in it for the reprints, probably not.
Buy this box to have some fun. Don't buy it to make money.
I agree. All right. That is the financial value of this deck. Before we go on, we're going to get to this upgrade. But we want to talk about what the structure of the deck is before we tell you what cards to add and what cards to take out, which means it's time to break down the stats. We did it.
I think
Here.
can we go a little bit longer?
Stats. Yeah.
That's good.
That was nice.
Yeah.
We had a little two different tones. All right. We are going to break this down real quick. The first thing is the vegetables in the deck, the cards that every deck has. It's 11 pieces of ramp, 14 pieces of draw, 10 pieces of targeted interaction, a whopping 5 board wipes.
This is Fallout, baby.
That's a lot. 36 lands, including 14 basics. Specific to this deck, there are 20 token makers. That's anything that makes a creature token specifically. There are 10 creature buffs that could include anthems, that could include a number of cards that put counters on your entire team. Then there are 8 cards that care about cards dying or creatures dying, and there are 5 sack effects. So this is any kind of card that says sacrifice a creature, even if it's just one time. Okay. All of that said, we've looked at the stats, we've looked at the best cards, we understand the commander. I think we are going to keep Caesar in the command zone for this one.
Agreed.
I had a couple of goals going into this upgrade. The main thing that I noticed with this deck is a lot of the cards that make tokens make them after your commander would come down.
Right.
They're expensive. So they're like X spells that would make X number of tokens, which means like if you cast them before your commander, you'd be paying 3 mana to make 2 1/1s most of the time. Or they're like squad cards, which you pay additional to make more copies of non-token creatures.
Which makes me want to be playing those much later on.
Right.
So, like a Gary clone, I want to be paying, 6-8 mana into that.
Exactly. You're not going to want to slam it early to sack it to your commander. So I really wanted to make sure we were making tokens early and we were making them before your commander came down. So that was the biggest change I think I wanted to do with this upgrade. And then the other problem that I ran into were the tokens that your commander is making are just 1/1s that are immediately in combat. They have no evasion. They have no like buffs. And a lot of the buffs that I mentioned, the creature buffs in the deck, don't affect them. They're like sorcery speed, put counters on all your creatures, or they're like whenever you attack buff. So they're just 1/1s in combat and are very easy to block. So I wanted to put some effects that immediately make them bigger threats so they're not just going to die in combat.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are some of the big goals I was making with this upgrade. Let's get into it. We're going to add 10 cards using a budget of $50. First one's a doozy.
Ooh, I got 2.
You got 2? Woo! Get him out. That was my favorite. I really want to do a montage of paper tosses that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many.
Next time I want you to throw it, and then I'll try to like punch it out of the sky.
There you
or
go.
something.
That's fun. We start getting coordinated with this. The first card I wanted to add was a slam dunk in this deck. You're in Mardu. You've got an attack trigger. We're adding Ishin 2 Heavens as 1. Red, white, black for human samurai. If a creature attacking causes a trigger ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
Attack Harmonicon. We're taking Harmonicon and adding it to all kind of things we do in Magic.
Yeah. Why do it once when you can add another card and do it 2 times?
In fact, why don't we play that animation from Game Nights? Roll the tape.
When heaven strike!
Ishin's sitting at $1.25 and it doubles your commander's value. What I really like about this is it gives you 2 attacking triggers. You can make the 2 tokens and then sack one of the attacking tokens and trigger it again. So you get like a lot of value off of this. Is that even true?
It's
when you attack, you may sacrifice. Yeah. So you need to sacrifice and then sacrifice again. Sorry.
But it'll replace itself.
Yeah. So I love this, and I love that it curves under your commander. So you can get tokens down on 2. We've added some ways to do that. Ishin on 3, commander on 4. You are terrifying at this point.
As long as you have something other than Ishin. Don't sack
Ishin.
You
want him here. The next one I'm adding is taking up a good chunk of the budget. It's with $13. It's Reconnaissance. This is a 1-mana white enchantment that has an activated ability that says 0, remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. This is
so you
perfect.
can send it, get that trigger, come back.
Exactly.
Nice.
So you get that attack trigger. Even if you don't have a free attack, you can pull it back from combat. You can pull back those 1/1s that your commander makes and be like, you guys are too little to live. You come back and stay here.
You're running off to die.
Yeah.
Why don't you sit on the bench?
Yeah, heal.
Yeah.
That's what I think of Reconnaissance.
Nice.
It at the very least, it gives your board pseudo-vigilance because you can let them do damage and then remove them from combat before combat ends. So at the very least, this is a 1-mana enchantment that gives your whole board vigilance. At the very most, this lets you attack for free and saves those 1/1s that your commander's making.
That tricky stuff wins games.
Pretty good. The next category is the biggest category that I've mentioned. I really wanted to make tokens, and I wanted to make them early and cheaply. And there's some really cool ways to do that.
Do I get to read it?
You read it. I've been reading a lot.
Enem Pakal, Thousandth Moon. It's 1, a red and a white for a legendary creature, human soldier. It's a 1/2 with, when you attack with 1 or more non-gnome creatures, put a 1/1 counter on Enem Pakal, then create X 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens that are tapped and attacking, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on this card.
Yeah.
Huh. So it grows over time.
It's very similar with your commander. It makes those 1/1s that are attacking. It's an attack trigger. It gets bigger. Plus, there's a lot of +1 counter synergy in the deck. And this comes down the turn before your commander. So you can play this, attack with a Neem, trigger your commander, sacrifice a golem. Yeah, a gnome, excuse me. Because you have to do a Neem's trigger first, make the gnome, sack it to your commander, make the humans. And now your engine is online. And that's just 2 cards that fit it nicely into a curve.
Very nice.
For only 50 cents.
For 50 cents, that's neat.
This next one is a house and very similar. It's Jadar, Ghoul Caller of Nephalia.
This card is the truth.
I am obsessed with this card. It's very, very similar to a Bitter Blossom that works right away.
Yeah.
In decks that just want creatures to throw into the trash, it's perfect. Jadar is a 2-mana human wizard. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, make a 2/2 black zombie with Decayed. So Decayed sacrifices at the end of combat, but it doesn't matter. He's not going to survive combat anyway. Your commander's going to sacrifice him, and you're going to get extra value out of it.
Yeah, zombies walk in and out of your life. Don't get too attached.
Exactly. Unless you're in that rom-com that they made after Twilight that has you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
That's
I
like
do.
a parody one where she falls in love with a zombie. Gross.
Speaking of falling in love with zombies,
Jadar is $4.
next is Loyal Apprentice. It's 1 in red for 2/1 with haste. It has Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 Thopter with flying that gains haste until end of turn.
Speaking of Bitter Blossom,
this is the exact type of card that we need in this deck because we need something that's going to come down early and is going to be attacking, to get that trigger every single time. How many turns would you say a game goes?
I mean, these days I feel like 8 or 9 is when things are really popping off.
If you need 8 or 9 more turns, you're lucky that you got that, but that's how many triggers that you're going to get off of this attack, off of Caesar's trigger. So realistically, if you're not running extra combats and stuff like that, we're going to see it 4 or 5 times if you've done very well for yourself.
Right. You really, really need a token to sacrifice, and making sure it happens the turn you have it is imperative. It's going to feel old, but Lingering Souls is the next card we're adding. This is a really powerful sorcery with flashback that makes 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. And then you can flash it back for 1 and a black. So it's 2 in white, then 1 in a black. This makes 4 bodies. They're evasive, so they're great for triggering attacks. They're great for just sacrificing and getting value out of. This is going to put in a lot more work than it looks like, and all of it happens before your commander comes down.
Yeah, play this card, eat your veggies. You gotta have those tokens out. All right, next is Company Commander. It's 2 white and a black for a creature, human soldier, 2/4. It has command section. When Company Commander enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have, and bring it down. Whenever Company Commander attacks, creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. Jeez.
Right?
It's my board in a box.
This card is going to put in so much work here because, again, you can stack those attack triggers. You can do your commanders first, make the 1/1s, then resolve this, give the 1/1s death touch. This deck also has sort of a small soldier sub-theme going on. There's a couple of cards that care about soldiers.
Like the movie?
Yeah.
Small soldiers, big battles.
It's what it feels like, honestly.
Yeah.
There's the 6-mana one that makes 3 soldiers. Your commander makes soldiers. It's a soldier itself. So Company Commander kind of leans into that, plus gives evasion to those 1/1s, which is a really big deal.
Nice.
Oh, okay. And only 50 cents.
Oh, wow.
Sorry to everybody who's cringing at mixing Warhammer with Fallout. I don't know. The vibes are very similar for Company Commander.
Okay, easy.
Look at it.
I don't know about
same.
that. Retrofuturism and sci-fi is very different.
Sorry.
Well, deep sci-fi, like space fantasy.
The final thing I wanted to add was payoffs for all of these tokens. It's going to take a little while to make a bunch of tokens and then put all the counters on it and hope all your anthems are big enough. So it's let's not waste any time. Let's turn them into angels right away with Divine Visitation. This is a $7 card that says if 1 or more creature tokens you would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead.
That's crazy.
Now your commander says make 2 4/4 angels tapped and attacking.
I think I would sacrifice just about any creature.
Yeah, to make 2 4/4s.
They're tapped in attacking. They're not going to have that vigilance.
That's true.
I'll get over it, though.
This card is crazy. And if you can get it down like the turn after your commander comes down, you have to be dealt with immediately.
Yeah.
The next one's a new one.
War Leader's Call. 1, a red and a white for an enchantment. It says creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's like reverse aristocrats.
Yeah, it's a little impact tremors. It's a little, anthem effect. War Leader's Call's doing a lot for you. It's sitting at $4 right now. It might come down once they've opened a little bit more of Murders at Call-Up Manor. This card's really good.
Do you feel like you're including a lot more new cards now that this is your job?
I like to. I think when people watch these episodes, they're like, have a bunch of cards that are fresh and want to build with new cards. So I think anytime you can get a new card, not all new cards in, but it's fun to have new ones.
This card's nuts. The Game Nights editors hate it. It's Cathar's Crusade. 3 white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So I get 1/1. Okay.
Yeah.
1 counter on that dude.
Right.
I get another 1/1 that comes in. This guy's got 1 counter. The other dude has 2 counters now. So you just have a bunch of creatures with different toughness. Super hard to track. It's super powerful.
I don't normally recommend this card because it is such a headache. I don't love playing with it. But because your commander makes 2 creatures and they're tapped and attacking, you really, really want to get value off of them. And you really want them to survive combat. And making them 2/2s makes a big difference, especially when you're combining it with other like token combat effects like Anim Pakal and Loyal Apprentice. You can make a really big, really scary board very fast.
So like we just get 1 Caesar trigger, those 2 humans come in and they get 1 counter for each of them, so they're 3.
That is terrifying. And Cathar's Crusade is a real headache, but if all your opponents are dead, then the headache's over.
Yeah.
You've done it. That is a $16 card, but the power is
oh my God.
real in this deck. So I got right down to the wire with this budget. It's $47.50. The big spender is being Reconnaissance and Cathar's Crusade. If you don't want to play with Cathar's Crusade, I get it. Put Impact Tremors in. That would be a lot simpler to resolve. But not quite as cool. That is the cards that we are adding to this deck. I think we're making it leaner. I think we're making it meaner. And the plan is just a little bit more easier to execute.
Yeah, you need to, if you are building this deck, you need to spend some time and think about what does turn 1 look like ideally? What does turn 2 look like? We talk about this when we're building Game Nights decks all the time, is because you're only going to get 1 turn 2.
Right.
Like when you play it, it's not usually, it's the 1 time. So that mindset really helps is what am I going to do on 2? What am I doing on 3 and 4? And in this deck, it's critical.
Absolutely. There's a very specific curve that you need to hit with your commander. The cards that we are cutting are up next. We've added 10 cards. That means we have to take 10 cards out. We've hinted at the first one. Mr. House should come out of this deck, and you can build a Mr. House deck.
Jordan's doing it. We hear about it a whole lot.
I've played against one already that my friend just like playtest to put in a playtest card for it. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's completely cracked, but you need a lot of dice rolling effects.
Yeah, you don't want just the one in the command zone.
Yeah. So that one's coming out. The next one is Heroic Reinforcements. This is a 4-mana sorcery that makes 2 soldiers, gives everything haste, and then gives everything +1/+1. That's just too expensive to like play your commander on 4 and then make them 2 after, and they gain haste, but it's just awkward.
Yeah, for 4 mana, you better be taking me out to dinner too. It's a little too much.
A little too expensive.
Next one is Assemble the Legions. This is a classic one. 3 red, white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a muster counter on it, and then create that many 1/1s. Yeah.
It's too slow these days. It's a shame because it used to be such a cool card. But like if we're talking about games ending on turn 8 or 9, you cast this on 4 or 5, you and that's ideal, right? Yeah. Ideally, you're going to get 6 1/1s out of it.
Hey, if
right? You make 1, then 2, then 3, and then you're dead.
If it's like a 17-turn game with precons or something, this card's going to do crazy work for you.
It's going to be great if you're playing longer games.
Comment on this, and you'll say, hey, this worked really well for me. But
if you're playing longer games, if your playgroup is going past 9 where you feel like you can pay 5 and just let this be a problem, keep it in. It's going to be a powerhouse. But I feel like a lot of the games that at least we're playing at the office and that I've been playing in the wild just go a little too fast for Assemble the Legion these days. Vault 11, Voter's Dilemma. This is a new card, and it is weirdo. It's 2 white and a black for a saga. The first one says, for each opponent, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. That sounds good. 2 and 3 are the same. Each player secretly votes for up to 1 creature. Then those votes are revealed. If no creature got votes, each player draws a card. Otherwise, destroy each creature with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So, normally when you have this kind of effect, it protects your stuff. This one doesn't. You could play this and your opponents could be like, I vote for that, I vote for that, I vote for that, and you lose 3 things. And then it happens again.
I'm stuck on like, what would Josh do?
Would
he point at something or would he bank on everybody drawing cards?
I mean, I feel like you have to vote.
You have to, yeah.
Like this game is like, I understand it's flavorful. I had this vault explained to me. I think it's a really neat vault. As a card, people are going to point and it's going to be at your stuff and you're going to lose probably a creature. And it says silently vote, or secretly vote. But a lot of the time when there's a problem on the board, it's, what the problem is.
We're all voting for that, right? Well, no, you vote for this.
And then we spread out the votes and then it becomes a huge problem. And now you've lost 2 things and it's happening again. I just don't think this card is very safe. It's only good to play when you're behind. And this isn't a behind deck. This is a in the front deck. They'll be like, yeah, okay, I kill your commander and I kill your anthem effect and we'll move on.
Yeah. Thanks for playing. Next card is Butch Deloria, Tunnel Snake. Legendary creature, human rogue, 2/2. And it's costs 1 and a black, and it's got menace. Tunnel Snake's rule. Whenever Butch Deloria, Tunnel Snake, attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end turn for each other rogue and or snake you control. Then 1 and a black, put a menace counter and tap. No. Then 1 and a black, put a menace counter on another target creature. It becomes a rogue in addition to its other types. So Butch is recruiting more tunnel snakes. That's kind of fun.
I think the flavor here is really cool. It just doesn't really match what the deck's trying to do. No, the deck is trying to make too many creatures for you to block, and this is giving one of your tokens menace.
Make no mistake, this is stupid, but it's cute. It's fun.
Cute. I think the flavor here is awesome, and I think if you're building a deck around rogues or if you're building a deck around snakes, cool.
Yeah. If you've played like 20 minutes of Fallout 3, then you've met the tunnel snakes.
Put Butch in another deck where they work a little bit better. This deck has 5 board wipes. I cut the worst one. Unfortunately, the worst one is one of the new ones. It's the Nipton Lottery. It choose a creature at random. You gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Then destroy all other creatures. So you spin a wheel. You pick a creature. You gain control of it. Get 1 hit out of it. And then whoever owns it gets it back. You just don't need this many board wipes in a deck that's trying to make tokens. And the rest of them are more one-sided. So I got rid of this one.
Next one is a Mysterious Stranger, super flavorful card that has to go. It's got flash. It's 2 red for a 3/2 creature human rogue. And when the Mysterious Stranger enters the battlefield for each graveyard with an instant or sorcery card in it, exile target instant or sorcery card from that graveyard. If 2 or more cards are exiled this way, choose one of them at random and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So let's say I've got make 2 treasure tokens in my graveyard. You've got to cultivate. Josh has a board wipe and Jimmy has a single target removal spell.
Yeah.
I would say I'll take all those.
Yeah.
I don't know which one I'm getting.
Get one of those.
Yeah.
It's weird in this deck. It has multiple X spells. Your deck has like four X spells in it or something like that, which don't work with Mysterious Stranger. So this goes in another deck. It's a cool spin the wheels, especially if you can make copies of it. I think it's really neat, but
cool.
Not quite. Ruthless Rat. Ruthless Rad Rat is one of the neater squad cards. It's 1 black for a 2/2 with menace, and it has squad. Squad cost is exile 4 cards from your graveyard. So you can pay 3 to make a 2/2, and you exile, let's say, 8 cards, then you make 3 2/2s with menace. Exiling 8 cards is a really big cost, and your deck isn't actively milling yourself in any way, and that only gives you 3 2/2s with menace.
I feel like this might have gone in the mutant deck.
It makes a little bit more sense there when you're actively doing more self-mill. I think this card's really sweet, and in the right deck, it's going to be cool. In this deck, it feels a little awkward and is most of the time going to be a 3-mana 2/2 with menace.
Another cut is Black Market, 3 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black for each charge counter on Black Market.
you played with Black Market lately?
I played with it when my sister cast it in 2017.
Black Market hasn't been super good in a little while for similar reasons that Assemble the Legion hasn't been very good. Is you just don't want to start making mana on turn 5 after something else happens.
It's too late.
It's too late. And this deck doesn't have great ways to use that mana. You have those X spells, but that just sort of wipes the board and gives you a few more tokens, which is good, I guess. But that's a 2-card combo that doesn't win you the game. So I don't think there's a good home for Black Market in this deck.
Okay, and the last one is Luck Bobblehead. It's 3 for an artifact Bobblehead. And then it taps for 1 mana of any color, or it has 1 in tap. Roll X 6-sided dice, where X is the number of bobbleheads you control. Create a tap treasure token for each even result. If you rolled 6 exactly 7 times, you win the game. Yay.
This is the other dice rolling card in the deck. I think there's a really sweet build with all the bobbleheads, and someone should build it. If there's only 2 in this deck, and they're 3 mana rocks, which is very awkward with your 4 mana commander and your 2 and 3 drops that make tokens. So you should probably cut both bobbleheads, but I just cut this one because the other one at least makes tokens.
And if you're interested, the Luck Bobblehead is representing the special system, which is your traits, which is Strength, Perception, Endurance, Agility, Charisma, Intelligence, Agility. And
Luck.
Strength.
You went all over the place.
I did. So I'll do it again.
You did the Lycia.
Take 2. Strength, Perception, Endurance, Perception, Charisma, Intelligence, Agility, Luck.
P was in the wrong spot there.
Okay, take 3. Strength, Perception, Endurance, Charisma, Intelligence, Agility, and then Luck.
Yeah, this is the L. Without it, it's Specia. But,
yeah, I'm definitely min-maxing my build today with low intelligence.
Those are the 10 cards that we are going to take out of the Hail Caesar deck. It's just going to make it a little bit faster. It's going to make the deck work a little bit earlier and cut out some of the top end that requires more things to happen after it comes down. In this kind of deck, you want to curve out, you want to slam a haymaker, and you want to win the game before people are ready.
Cool. This is a fun deck. And,
I like it a lot.
You know, I've said it a few times. As long as you put in the homework, do your homework on what turn you plan to do what, and don't expect a win to just happen. You're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to upgrade the Scrappy Survivors Precon after a few words from our sponsors.
Detective Alquist Proft, personal notes. The case of the fast feast. It was a stormy Friday night when Tessa Karloff wandered into my office, asking the impossible.
I'm looking to eat opulently, but I only have 2 minutes to cook.
2 minutes? I could crack a case in 2 minutes. But a full meal?
Have I finally stumped Ravnica's greatest detective?
Not yet. You forgot to factor in one thing. Factor. They deliver chef-crafted meals right to your door that are ready to eat in only 2 minutes. And with over 35 pre-prepared options each week, including vegetarian and calorie-smart, Factor has truly solved making upscale dining fast and easy. Plus, Factor won't cost you all your treasures and tithes. It's less expensive than takeout, and even offers the flexibility of letting you pause or reschedule anytime. My favorite meal is the smoky Gouda chicken. Delectable restaurant quality from the comfort of my dimly lit office. Here, dig in.
Could it possibly be that simple? Just heat and eat? This is to die for.
Head to factormeals.com/command50 and use code command50 to get 50% off. That's code command50 at factormeals.com/command50 to get 50% off. This episode is sponsored by Etsy.
Greetings, acolytes! I, bringer of the last gift, have gathered you in this temple of the dead to honor our demonic lord, Aclazatz!
With a birthday party. With my gift-giving reputation, I always freak out when Aclazatz's birthday rolls around. What do you get the god who consumes everything? The trick is being thoughtful. And for that, you can now use gift mode on Etsy. They take the stress out of gifting so you can find the perfect item for anyone. When I need a custom cutting board for the baker in my life, I use Etsy. When I need an art print for the anime lover, I go to Etsy right away. When I need a cool puzzle for the steampunk, I make it myself. Just kidding! I get it on Etsy. The Game Knights even sent me this cozy custom throw blanket for the holidays. And you know where they got it? On Etsy, of course! Because the thing is, despite my name, no gift is ever really the last. There's always another birthday, anniversary, or party right around the corner. So whether it's a baby shower
Or the eternal rebirth of the Blood Lord.
gift mode on Etsy always has you covered. Need to find the perfect gift? Don't panic. Try gift mode now.
Browsing for some new tech?
Yeah, I'm building T-Mount and ARCHIDEKT. Ooh, how about Zergo and Ojutai?
Did you just drag and drop that card image directly into your deck?
Yep, with ARCHIDEKT, you can drag and drop card images from EDH Rec or Scryfall directly into the deck list. No typing required.
That is so cool.
Ooh, okay, check this out. I'm gonna drag and drop Dragon Storm into the deck, and then boom, I'm gonna drop a bunch of dragons on the battlefield.
A 9-drop, huh? Seems ambitious.
It was just for the pun. ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are upgrading the Scrappy Survivors Precon from the new Fallout Universes Beyond. This deck is adorable and has a little dog as the commander.
Yeah, it's Dogmeat. That's one of the first characters that you meet out in the wasteland.
Is this dog? And he's all by himself?
All by himself, hanging out at the Red Rocket gas station.
Oh, that's fun. Maybe I should play Fallout.
Yeah, if you want to meet Dogmeat, it's within the first few minutes, and the game is like a few bucks.
Nice.
Fallout 4.
So this deck out of the box is a Naya Auras and Equipment deck. So this is red, green, and white, and it is built around Dogmeat, basically. It has a sub-theme of junk tokens, because your commander also makes junk tokens. We'll talk about Dogmeat in a second. But it also has a pretty good suite of creatures that you can load up with auras and equipments and that kind of thing. I mean, Fallout is sort of all about character modification and like growing your one character, right? So it does make a ton of sense to me that there's like an aura and equipment deck.
I'm really feeling like these 4 decks, this one here is about the weapons in Fallout. Hail Caesar is about war. The mutants is about radiation. And the science deck is, well, science.
Yeah.
Like those 4 aspects of Fallout really define the property altogether.
That's cool.
So
as a deck, it is split a little bit between auras and equipments. So it has stuff that supports one and not the other, and some that supports both. So it is a little bit unsure of itself. And I think if you upgrade it, then you sort of pick a lane. We tried not to pick a lane for you in this upgrade, but I think
the balance is super hard with this.
The balance is very, very tricky, as it always is.
Yeah, because there's fun auras, fun equipments, but to have creatures that stick to them, like that's pretty vital. So we need to be seeing a lot of cards.
Absolutely. And Dogmeat does help with that. Let's meet this loyal pooch.
Dogmeat, ever loyal. It's a red, a green, and a white 3-mana total for a legendary creature, Dog. It's a 3/3. When Dogmeat enters the battlefield, mill 5 cards, then return an aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. Notably, any aura or equipment.
Yep.
Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a junk token. Again,
nice.
Impulsive draw on a token. Super awesome. So we're going to be milling to find the auras and equipments that we want. When we lose those auras and equipments because they got removed because they were too good, we'll recast the commander, get it right back because it can be any card.
I like Dogmeat a lot because this is really built to support some of the weaknesses of equipment and auras, right? Is like if you put an aura on a creature and they kill the creature, you lose both the creature and the aura. And Dogmeat says like, well, if you're attacking with like a modified creature, if you're using 2 cards to get this trigger, we'll give you a little bit of cards back and I'll help you recur some of those auras and equipment as well. So clearly we're using a couple different forms of card advantage to make sure that we always have options with Dogmeat.
Like let's be clear. If it said look at the top 5 and you may reveal one, put the rest on the bottom, so much worse.
Yeah.
Like the regrowth is so good.
I agree. The backup commander for this deck is not a dog. Boo! It's Preston Garvey, Minuteman.
Another pod needs our help. I'll mark it on your map. People are losing it over that joke right now. It's very good. Okay, Preston Garvey, Minuteman. It's 5 mana total, 2 a red, a green, and a white. For a legendary creature, human soldier, 4/4. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, create a green aura enchantment token named Settlement, attached up to 1 target land you control. It has enchant land, and enchanted land has add 1 mana of any color. Whenever Preston Garvey attacks, untap each enchanted permanent you control.
This one's pretty neat. It's doing something a little different than dog meat. So this is putting auras on your lands and then untapping those. And dog meat relies on you having auras and stuff on creatures and attacking with those. But hypothetically, you could put auras on Preston and untap your lands and be able to cast more spells
like
afterward.
Pseudo-vigilance. It's like terrible sort of feast and famine.
Yeah.
But really, I think this card is just so satisfying to me that I'm almost blind to whether or not it's a good card. Because Preston Garvey is known as like, he creates randomly generated quests, but nobody tells you that. So you might go to Preston Garvey and be like, hey, I took care of that settlement. And he'd say, another settlement needs our help. I'll mark it on your map. You just endlessly do that for 12 hours until you find out there's no hint of this, is there?
Nope. That guy's always going to have another quest.
But as far as the card quality of this goes, it feels like bad sort of feast and famine.
Yeah, it's Preston's neat. I think it's doing something a little bit different than dog meat, but it's doing enough things. I would picture Preston to be more of an enchantress deck. You'd have a lot of like constellation triggers for when you when that token comes in, you draw a bunch of cards, that kind of thing. And you're going to want to be enchanting a lot of your lands. There are a few enchant lands in the deck. By a few, I mean 4. So not a ton, which is really how I feel like Preston would be built. But with creatures, just giving your creatures vigilance and having to attack to do that isn't quite as powerful. So I think we're going to stick with dog meat as our commander here, especially considering some of the best cards in this deck.
Yes, the best cards in the deck. First one is Mantle of the Ancients. It's 3 white for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature you control. When Mantle of the Ancients enters the battlefield, return any number of target aura and or equipment cards that could be attached to enchanted creature from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature. And then enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So I cast this targeting, let's say, dog meat, and every single thing that could possibly be attached to it comes back in from the graveyard.
Yeah, it's like a sort of a Bruna type effect. What I really like about Mantle of the Ancients, especially when combined with dog meat, is this can be the aura that you recur, right? So if you play dog meat, you mill it, you bring this back to the battlefield, you cast this on something, you reanimate your whole graveyard now, and now you've drawn 1 card off of dog meat, but suddenly you have 10 cards on the battlefield, depending on how much you've been milling.
The theming of dog meat here is all about stockpiling.
Yeah.
So dog meat, every time it comes in, it's a 3-mana commander. We're going to see it a couple of times cast here. So every time it enters the battlefield, it's going to be stocking up that graveyard. Every time you're attacking, you're stocking up those junk tokens. But yeah, ideally, when you cast Mantle of the Ancients, you've got a couple of triggers worth of graveyard filled up.
And if it falls off, go get it again with dog meat later. The next best card in the deck is a new one. It's Armory Paladin. 1 red white for a human knight with trample. It's whenever you cast an aura or equipment card, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. You get a full rotation with those cards. So it's like a...
Attachtress.
Attachtress?
Yeah, Equiptress.
Oh, it's
They don't put me in charge of coining these things.
Yeah, it's like an impulse enchantress
Yeah, I feel like that's the theming of okay, but what if equipment triggered it too? Okay, yeah, impulsive.
Slow down. You can have it for a full turn.
You're not getting a real card.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's Boros, all right? Yeah. What I do like about this card, though, even more than other enchantresses, especially in this deck, is it naturally has trample.
Yeah.
So it wears equipment and auras really, really well, and it works really well with your commander.
That keyword does so much for the card. It's crazy. Also, the flavor text says Ad Victoriam. This is a Brotherhood of Steel knight.
Yeah.
And it kind of highlights like a lot of the different factions show up in a lot of these different decks. It's not like this is the settlement deck or whatever. You see all kinds of factions in these things. They chose to go just kind of factionless with the decks. So if there's a faction that you like, it's not necessarily going to say like the Brotherhood of Steel is the Caesar one or the Science one.
Right.
It's all of them.
I think this card is going to put in a ton of work, and it brings a little Brotherhood flavor. I'm really excited about this next one. It's called Inventory Management. It's red and white for an instant with split second. It says for each aura and equipment you control, you may attach it to a creature you control.
That's crazy.
So there's one that does this for 1 equipment. It's like Magnetic Theft, I think is what it's called. And it moves 1 equipment. But this moves everything. So you're like, oh, you think you blocked the big one? Well, this Thopter is now whoosh, loaded.
He's like a Power Ranger assembling all the guns together.
Exactly. To your one unblocked thing to do hit like with one huge amount of damage. I love combat tricks. I think this is the kind of combat trick that's actually really good in Commander because it can just one-hit KO somebody if you have it at the right moment. So it's a little bit narrow, but it means that like if somebody goes to remove one of your commanders, you can move a hexproof thing onto it. If somebody goes to remove something and you're like, I don't really care about that creature, you can move them all to something else. You don't lose those auras. You don't lose all that equip mana. Just is going to keep you a little bit lighter on your feet, which is something that aura and equipment decks always struggle with.
And if you're loading this card or this deck up with a bunch of swords and all kind of stuff that cares about connecting, aha, gotcha.
You're like, I can't block that one. That one has death touch. You're like, hey, that one has death touch.
It's me. Whoosh. That's perfect.
It's a really fun card, and I think it's going to make for a really, really powerful moment.
Notable reprints.
Yep, it's time to get into the financial value of this deck. We're going to talk
break
about
the bad news.
Yeah, the cards that are worth over $5, and there are two.
Hey,
two of them.
One of them is really good. It's Heroic Intervention. We love seeing that again.
Happy to see a reprint here. This is very powerful. It's cool that they reskin good cards with Fallout like art on it because that makes your Fallout decks better.
Yeah, flavor text. Another beautiful day in the most dangerous place in the world. Nick Valentine. Aww. He's we see him a lot in the game. He's
AD told me about
detective robot.
Yeah.
And then the second one is Sun Petal Grove for $5.
It's a green-white checkland.
Sure.
All right. That's it. Predictably, that means the reprint value for this deck is quite low. The total reprint value, remember these are $60 on the shelf right now, is $70.50.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Very low. There's 50 reprints in this deck. That means that the average reprint value, so if you pulled a random reprint out of here, the average value is going to be $1.41. That is significantly lower than the average of 2023, which was $2.07. So this deck doesn't have the reprint value. It just doesn't. It's sort of predictable when it comes to auras and equipment deck, which is a very, very well-supported strategy.
It's a cheap strategy to me.
That is also very cheap.
Yeah.
So there are like some decent reprints. They're just not worth a lot of money. Yeah, I think if you're after this for the Fallout flavor, if you're after this for dog meat, get it. Otherwise, you're going to be able to build a much better dog meat deck probably all by yourself.
Yep. If you thought you were getting swords in this, it's a little misguided.
Yep.
All right.
No, you are not. You are getting Heroic Intervention, and you will be happy about it.
Hey, and there's a Sun Petal Grove to hold you over.
You're right.
What are you complaining about? You got Sun Petal Grove.
Use the Sun Petal Grove. All right, we're going to talk about this deck. Before we get into the upgrade, I want to break down the
stats.
We got a double stats. We do the stats twice now.
Yeah.
This deck has 14 pieces of ramp, 11 pieces of draw or card advantage. We included junk tokens here. 6 pieces of targeted interaction, 3 board wipes, 38 lands, including 12 basic lands. And then I also broke down the card types because it's really, really important for this kind of deck. There's 15 auras, there are 13 equipment cards, and there are 18 creatures. So let's talk about some goals going into this upgrade, especially based on those stats and knowing that the reprint value is pretty low.
Oh, yeah. 11 pieces of card draw, including the junk tokens, is not enough for me.
It's a little low, especially for a deck that sort of wears it all on its sleeve. When you're playing auras, you're already overcommitting to the board. Yeah,
and this mixture of 15 auras, 13 equipments, which will stick around, that's good, and 18 creatures, it's just like a wacky mix. And I need to be the one filtering these cards through my hand. I can't let just randomness be like, okay, here's a creature just when you need it. We only got 18 in the deck, homie.
Yeah, I think 18's too low for an aura or equipment deck. Remember, that means that 13 equipment cards and 15 auras, 28 cards in your deck are dead if you do not have a creature. because they don't do anything if you don't have a creature on the board. Of course, if you have dog meat, but dog meat really wants you to have a lot of creatures that are equipped to get more junk tokens. So I think we need to up this creature count just to make your deck a little bit more reliable, and definitely a little bit more card advantage in here to make sure that your deck is working on time.
Cool.
All right.
So, talking about cards to add.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll be a little bit transparent here. I've been busy.
You have.
I've been busy. We've been working on this game nights. We got a lot of fun stuff. We've been shooting a lot of extra turns here. Whole kind of stuff happening in this new building. So I really wanted to be a part of this. I desperately wanted to be involved in this. So I shared a list of cards.
Yeah.
After seeing this deck do its thing a lot with Rachel, with the simple concept of like, hey, this is Fallout. They're not going to include our Magic characters with their names in it.
Right.
You can't really reskin that. So let's look at those and see if that accomplishes our goal of getting us some more cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think there's some really good ones here. We started first with card advantage. We know we want stuff that that makes sure that you can play your plan on time. And the first one I think is a really interesting source of card advantage. It's Danitha New Benalia's Light. This is 1 a green and a white for a 2/2 human knight. She's from Aftermath, I believe. She has Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink. Amazing. Those are great keywords for wearing equipment and for wearing auras. Then also says once during each of your turns, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard.
It's great for the auras.
It's awesome. It's really good to rebuild a board. It gives you a place to put those auras, and it helps you. Your commander is also milling, but can only bring one thing back. So Danitha is going to help you play anything else that you've milled, or if you play your commander multiple times, or if there's a huge board wipe and all your equipment goes to the graveyard. Danitha just helps you recover in a huge way.
Yeah, don't sleep on those keywords.
For only $1.
Those keywords are crazy.
Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink is enormous in this kind of deck.
And next is SRAM, Senior Edificer. And hey, this card's 75 cents.
Yeah.
Get yourself a fancy version of SRAM.
Fancy
There's all kind of versions of SRAM. So SRAM, Senior Edificer for 1 and a white is a 2/2 Dwarf Advisor. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card.
That's what we want to be doing.
That's more attachtress effects going on.
I love this attachtress because it makes me think of an enchantress that keeps getting stuff stuck to her. She's like, I love it.
It's sort of like having a really hard to say name. Like once you got it, you're never going to.
Yep, that's it.
Like Schwarzenegger.
It's sticky.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
SRAM is awesome.
A ton of card advantage for this deck. I like it a lot. The next one is very cool in this deck as well. It's Wyleth, Soul of Steel. It's 1 red, white for a 2/2 human warrior, again with Trample. Whenever Wyleth attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. Great.
We love this.
This is a perfect place to put all of your stuff. It gives you more cards if you double down on Wyleth, and Dogmeat loves it. He's like, go, go, go. I'll give you more junk if you attack.
Trample included, all for the low, low price of 3 mana.
And $1.50.
And $1.50, yeah. Next one, we're a little crazy here.
I know. There was room in the budget.
Yeah, I threw this on the list, and I knew kind of what we were doing. But this equipment is a budget strategy. There's a lot of options out there. So let's throw a big one in there. For the $50, Shadow Spear.
Bam! Trample, Lifelink, and you can make stuff lose hexproof if you want, all for the low mana cost of 1.
It's too good.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best equipment in Commander. We talk about this in the when we drafted equipment, and it's if you're building this kind of deck, those are exactly the keywords you want. This is exactly the equipment that you want on board, and I think it's really going to just raise the floor of the deck.
Right.
For $24, so a little bit spendy, but having a Shadow Spear around really does help.
Yeah, you're here to figure out what to buy, you know? That's what you should buy. Next is Sword of the Animist for $9.50. It's a 2-mana legendary artifact equipment. With equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Great.
Sort of the Animist is sort of the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to equipment decks. You get that first land and you're like, great, I've ramped. And then it just becomes a cheap to equip equipment that gives you just value throughout the game. Nobody removes the Sword of the Animist. It's just really nice to have on board. And it helps you trigger that junk token because it's cheap to equip and gives you a little buff for your time. So those are some good equipment to raise the floor of the deck. We're going to cut a couple of them, so we had to replace them. This final section is equipment synergy. A lot of them work with auras as well. Again, this deck is split, and we didn't really have enough slots to push it one way or another. So we wanted to include pieces that work with both auras and equipment. And there's a lot of really good ones.
So first off is Reyav, Master Smith. It's a red and a white legendary creature. Dwarf Advisor. It's a 2/2. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, that creature gains double strike until end turn.
That's a threat right there.
Woo!
For 2 mana, this card is invaluable.
You're about to get borked by a dog meat. Twice.
Barked.
Yeah.
Bork barked.
He got some bite to him. Like double strike, when we're talking about, a commander, like this, it really does have a shot at commander damage.
Yeah, you need something to push this deck over the edge, right? Because you're not going to really win the game by giving stuff like a couple creatures +2/+2 and making junk tokens off of that. You need big swings in damage. And Reyav says like, oh, you brought damage? You can have twice as much damage, especially with all the trample that we've been adding.
With the trample and lifelink and all that stuff too. Oh my goodness.
Brutal. Only 25 cents for Reyav. This next one is new. It's $2 for Kellen the Fey-Blooded. So this is a creature with an adventure spell. Its adventure spell is a sorcery for 1 and a white. It says search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
What?
Great.
What?
Yep.
That's so
go get
good.
One. Just go get one for 2 mana.
Just whichever one you like. Just go get it.
And then it's like, now that you got exactly the one you want, I'll give you the perfect creature to wear it. It's Kellen. Kellen is a 2/2 with double strike that says other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen. Great.
This card is crazy.
Now you can load up Kellen and buff everybody else at the same time. This is the same kind of thing as Reyav, where it's just going to give you a ton of damage to push the deck over the top.
This card is so crazy. Oh my god.
It's busted. And it's such a good curve. But 2 mana, go find a thing. 3 mana, cast this. Play the aura, cast your commander, attack.
All of my complaints are solved by this card.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. It's $1.25, and it's 2 and a white for a legendary creature core scout 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player.
Nice. Again, keeps you loose, keeps you flexible. The nice thing, these kind of decks, you're paying 2 mana to put this over here, and then you're paying 3 mana to enchant this. And if somebody removes that, then you get completely blown out. But Arden is like, oh, okay, I'm going to spread out my stuff. I'm not going to make you keep spending mana to redistribute your auras and your equipment every time you get a new or better creature. It's frustrating when you draw Kellen late, and then you're like, all right, I've already paid 2 mana to equip this, but now I have to pay 2 mana again to move it back to Kellen. Arden just smooths things over for you for only $1.25.
Okay, next is Chishiro, the Shattered Blade.
I love this card.
This was Post Malone's commander on the Neon Dynasty episode. Check it out. 2 red and a green for a legendary creature, Snake Samurai. It's a 4/4. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with Menace.
Nice. Menace.
Crazy. And then at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each modified creature you control. Modified is in equipment, auras, and counters.
It's awesome. This solves your body's problem, where the deck just doesn't have enough creatures to reliably have stuff to equip. And Chishiro's like, oh, you need creatures? I got creatures. As long as you've got auras, I've got creatures.
It's so good.
Very, very powerful in this deck, and it's only $1.
That's so funny. All these cards are
so
the easiest
cheap
deck to
and
upgrade.
So powerful. We brought another Danitha to the table, and it's a doozy. It's Danitha Benalia's Hope this time. 4 and a white for a 4/4 human knight with first strike, vigilance, lifelink. When Danitha enters the battlefield, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield attached to Danitha. So you can reanimate an aura, equipment, and you get a free equip off of this. And she has great keywords. It works perfectly with your commander.
First strike.
Ugh. This is a lethal attacker and blocker.
It's just exactly where we want to be. I'm going to throw in one honorable mention because, my involvement in this was a little funky because of the schedule. But as we were sitting here, I was thinking, man, Home of the Host would be really sick in this deck.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of if you can keep making dog meats and keep milling and keep returning more and more to your hand, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's just your commander. With all of the stuff that we talked about, having more token copies is terrifying.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so those are the 10 ads. They total to $41.75.
We couldn't even get it to $50.
Couldn't even get it to $50
that budget.
even with the Shadow Spear.
Yeah.
Treat yourself to the Shadow Spear. You deserve it. And a lot of that is just going to give you the pieces that these decks often have. We're just bolstering it to make it like a pretty normal Voltron equipment aura type strategy. I do think that if you want to pick a lane, if you want to lean into the auras, you want to lean into the equipment, there's a lot more pieces that you can add or take out, but that's a decision that's up to you. We're upgrading the deck as it is with only 10 card swaps. But we did add 10 cards, which means we have to do the hardest thing in Commander, which is take them out. 10 out, 10 different ones out.
We got
some cards to cut. Yeah. This first one's sad but weird in this list.
It's very Preston,
It's great with Preston. It's terrible with Dogmeat. It's Squirrel Nest.
It's no good. Squirrel Nest, it's nice to be making creatures to suit up. Maybe that was the thinking too, but not in this deck.
No.
If you're upgrading, get rid of it.
Yeah, if you're putting Preston in the command zone, definitely keep Squirrel Nest.
Next, Super Mutant Scavenger, 4 and a green for a creature mutant warrior with trample. When it enters the battlefield or dies, return up to 1 target aura equipment from your graveyard to your hand. I don't know.
It's just a little expensive.
Yeah.
We put in ways to do this that are just better at it. Like, this is Danitha, but worse in my mind. You don't have great ways to kill it. You don't have great ways to recur it. So we've just put in better creatures than this.
Yeah, it's not wrong. It's below our league right now. Then Abundant Growth, 1 green for an enchantment aura, enchant land. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And then it has add 1 mana of any color. Great with Preston.
Doesn't ramp you, but it's good with Preston. It's, for another deck. Behemoth Sledge is Shadow Spear, but worse. We put in Shadow Spear, so we took out worse Shadow Spear. It just gives the equipped creature +2/+2 and trample and lifelink. And it equips for 3 and casts for 3. So 6 mana versus the 3 mana.
It's a lot.
Shadow Spear is much better.
Yeah. Next is Brotherhood Outcast, 2 and a white for a creature human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Return target aura or equipment with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a shield counter on 1 target creature.
It's okay. We put in Benalia, which is sort of this effect, but better. It allows you to do it multiple times. You do have to pay the mana cost, but reanimating one thing that you're more likely to put in your hand, I don't think is that great for this deck.
Yeah.
Up next is Moira Brown, Guide Author. 1 a red and a white for a human citizen. When she enters the battlefield, you make a colorless equipment artifact token named Wasteland Survival Guide. With equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each quest counter among permanents you control and equip 1. Whenever you attack, put a quest counter on target non-land permanent you control. So the deck sort of has a very small quest counter sub-theme. There's like maybe 3 cards with quest counters on them. It's a tough thing to build up a lot.
There's more throughout the rest of the set.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to build Moira, you build around Moira. You're trying to blink Moira and make more guidebooks and put more and more quest counters on it. And then these are much more impactful. But with just Moira on her own, this is a very slow engine for a pretty weak equipment.
Cool. Then it's cast Hand of Vengeance, 2 a red and a white. Legendary creature, human ranger. It's a 4/3 with vigilance. Whenever cast or another creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return any number of aura cards that were attached to it from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target creature. Then attach any number of equipment that were attached to it to that creature. I feel like I just said it. Alphabet soup.
I know. So cast basically says if a creature dies and it had a bunch of stuff on it, put all that stuff on something else.
Okay.
The thing is, in this deck, we don't have sack outlets. We don't have any sort of way to guarantee that your cards are dying, so you have no control over when cast triggers.
Hit me, please.
Yeah, you're just as likely to have your creature swords, exiled or bounced, or have it not die in some weird, phased out, as you are to have it die in combat.
This card is really great when you're goldfishing at home the night before somebody swords your guy. So.
Exactly. I feel like this is going to be a 4 mana 4/3 with vigilance a lot of the time.
Yeah. Thanks for trying, Cass. We appreciate you.
Yeah. It's also terrible in board wipes, which is where they're going to die most of the time because cast triggers and you have no creatures left on the battlefield.
Well, that was fun.
And you're like, great. Thank you so much for coming, Cass. Acquired Mutation is the next one. This is an aura for 2 and a red. It says enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, defending player gets 2 rad counters.
Rad counters.
Yeah. I feel like we want to put the auras on our creatures.
Yeah, isn't that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Silly.
It's weird.
We can recur it, which is kind of cool. So pseudo removal that I have access to with dog meat.
And then you're milling your opponents slowly with rad counters.
Yeah, the rad counters I'm sure you'll talk about on the next episode.
Yeah.
Or the previous episode.
Next one.
The next one. Stay tuned.
It's not that good in this deck.
Next is Well Rested. 1 and a green for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. I was having a hard time reading it because I'm checking out the art. I'm like, I think I've been there before. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature becomes untapped, put 2 1/1 counters on it. Then you gain 2 life and draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's kind of nice.
That's the thing is I really do like the vibes of this aura. I get it. It's like when you untap, you get a little boost and you're like, oh, I
want my creature to have that.
So well.
Yeah.
But the problem is you play this and it does nothing. And then you have to get your creature to tap or it does nothing. And it has to survive and then untap.
I'll tell you what, you and I, we can play this card in a doofy pod at lunch.
Exactly.
We get our doofiest decks out.
Yeah, it's just too slow for a lot. Like you want to play a spell and have it do something now. And this says, if you have a creature and you get this creature to tap and it untaps, you get a card.
It gets bigger, you get a little life, you get some cards.
You get a card.
A card.
You're like, I would just rather have this be another card is what I would rather.
You mean something that says 2 and cycle?
Yeah, exactly.
Last is Junk Jet. It's 1 in a red artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, create a junk. And then 3 and sacrifice another artifact. Double equip creature's power until end of turn. And then equip for 1.
So this card's almost good. Is it a 2-mana equipment that gives you a junk token? So it basically cycles. And then it gives you just sort of a free equip because you're only equipping for 1. The thing is, you're not really going to activate that unless you can kill somebody. So it makes it very narrow.
And the moment that you do, you're going to be tricked for the rest of existence into being like, no, this is a good card. You can take people out with commander damage with this thing.
You can, if they don't block it. And if you find a way to get trample on your commander, it's a good way to get people to chump.
Yeah, when you start using the word if, that's when you need to rethink this card. Like, if I've got this and then I'm already doing that and then I got this, like, you're not going to have all those things, buddy.
It's close. I cut it because we added 2 better equipment. But I do think if you like the flavor of it, it does give you an equipped creature for very low opportunity cost. So those are the 10 cards out for the Scrappy Survivors Precon.
This is the part where we duel now?
Yeah, this is the part where we duel. So I thought that we could do something kind of fun for this because we're going to compare these 2 precons and figure out which one we'd buy and which one we recommend that you buy. But I think it would be kind of fun to compare their special qualities.
Okay, I love this.
Right?
Yeah.
So we talk about the strength of each deck.
Yes.
And then we go through it. So we're going to start with S.
Strength.
For strength. I think if we're talking just in terms of raw power, I think this deck is stronger, especially after the upgrade.
Aha, counterpoint. Mm-hmm. My deck has a card. No, it doesn't. Oh, that's another deck named Strong. Dang it. Okay, yeah, no, I would agree that yours is stronger than mine.
Yeah, just in terms of plan, this one's a lot easier to execute, and it's going to be a lot faster. Perception is interesting. So I think
I'll hear you out.
If we're talking about perception in a commander game, this is going to be perceived.
Okay.
Because people are going to look at it and be like, murder that. This deck is going to be sneaky and grindy, and I think it can steal wins. It'll be
perceptive.
It'll be perceptive.
It'll be very perceptive because it'll be backed into a corner and saying, I've only got 1 creature out and I don't know what to do.
But I think in terms of perception, you're going to be able to sit back a little bit more. You're going to be able to read the board a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's going to make you a much more thoughtful player, where this one's going to be like, go, 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 go.
Yeah, I say I win perception.
I agree.
You can debate us in the comments, no matter.
The next one is endurance.
Yes. I'll let you go. You tell me what you think.
So this is interesting. In the long game, I think It's very difficult for this deck to beat a token deck, especially in the short game.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have a lot of chump blockers. I'm going to be very wide. And I'm going to be able to get around your one big blocker. But if there's a couple of board wipes and I'm out of cards, this deck relies on having something to get something. So it is going to be a little bit tricky if you've been board wiped twice and you're out of things.
I would love to be board wiped deep into the game because I will have dug so far through my deck and I recast my commander, regrow my favorite thing that I've either milled or was destroyed. Mantle of the Ancients, that would be the dream.
Yep.
But I'll take all kinds of different cards in this deck. Let's say I've got a bin full of 20 cards and I can choose the best thing in there with Dog Meat. That's pretty good. I would say that's pretty enduring.
Your deck is definitely going to grind better.
Okay.
And I think I
think you'll just see the same cards of mine over and over again.
I agree, which is like how I think of endurance in Commander. So I think
I'll rebuild.
Yeah.
And be pretty much where I was, which is still one creature or maybe two or three, but
that's the plan.
All right. So
yeah, I think your deck probably wins an endurance game, but it's going to have those 2 board wipes to get through this deck first.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple of ifs. So endurance, well, maybe we think of that as like a rebuild category.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll take endurance then.
Next one's charisma. So for me, this I think is like intrigue.
Okay.
Is like how fun is it to play, or like if you're playing across from it. Exactly. Yeah. And I think if we're talking intrigue, this commander is going to be more built. I think people are going to see it and be like, "Wow, that was awesome."
I did not see that coming. I did not think that through. Yeah.
I think people are going to be like, "Ooh, puppy," when they see Dog Meat, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, but auras."
Once they see the deck kind of perform and do the same thing over and over again, that isn't very rizzy. So
I think Caesar will win as far as charisma goes.
Yes,
because it's definitely going to do the bigger thing.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
Here we go. Your favorite category for this deck, huh?
Thinky.
Intelligence. Where does Caesar stack up?
I don't really know. It's kind of just go. It's kind of play this, play that. You dealt with that, play this, play that. It's more strength than it is intelligence.
But, now that I think about it, I said it a million times in this episode, you really have to have a plan.
You have to have a very clear plan. And what I do like about this deck is it has multiple angles of attack. I talk about this a lot as an aggro deck. We've talked about the go wide strategy and we've talked about the anthems, but it does have those like sack abilities in it as well. It has a pitiless plunderer in it that says when your creatures die, you get treasures. So now and the Bastion of Remembrance that we talked about. So there is a pivot point where you go from playing aggro deck to playing like, okay, stop, use my tokens as blockers, find a sack outlet, and try and slowly drain the table out there. And figuring out where that point is going to take some intelligence. It's tough to play aggro in Commander.
Yeah, I would give intelligence to you. Mine is, go fetch, find me some big iron thing to smack with.
Big dog, go.
Then I'll pay the mana. I'll foot the bill, and I'll put it on my creatures.
Yeah. The agility?
Who starts off faster?
I mean, it's got to be this one. If we're talking about just straight up speed,
yeah.
I think this deck is on the ground way faster, and it's going to be able to, quite literally go around the thing. The issue with Aura's decks, and I say that as somebody with a Voltron deck, is that you're like, I have a plan, and it's big guy.
Yeah.
And if the big guy plan falls apart, we have to rebuild the big guy plan.
F6, I'm going to the bathroom.
Exactly. You're like, we have plan A, and then we have plan A again.
Yeah. Let me check what's on my phone.
Yeah. So I do think that this deck is going to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit faster, and is going to leave you a lot more agile in a Commander game.
Rough.
Yeah. That's what the dog says.
Yeah. Last one. Luck. Define the category.
Yeah, that's it. That's the interesting thing here is like, you can high roll. I think it's like if you draw the right cards in the right order, which deck performs better? Let's say
consistency or
let's say
versus the big dream.
The big dream.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about consistency. I think it is like where we'll talk about the ceiling on this one.
Okay.
And I do think the ceiling on the dog is higher
Like my magical Christmas land is
a cooler magical Christmas land than Caesar's little army of little men.
I do feel like if I came into the team area at lunch, I would hear you howling, laughing at something that somebody had done with this deck.
Yeah.
Like that time you equipped or Murph equipped Sword of the Animus to your 6/6 version of Slicer.
That's incredible.
Like Magic just being stupid. This deck wins the stupid luck game.
I agree. I think like either you're going to get bigger moments out of Dogmeat. You're going to be able to put together a sillier board. And this is going to be like, I'm going to grind you out. I'm going to hit you faster. And it's probably a more efficient, better deck. But I do think that you can do a bigger, splashier, more Fallout-y thing even with Dogmeat. So,
okay, so that
we'll
gives
say luck goes to that.
Strength, perception, endurance, charisma.
Yeah, so we're 2 and 2 right now, right?
Yep. Intelligence, agility, luck.
The 4 to 3. We're going to give this one to the Hail Caesar deck, plus it has better reprint value.
Yeah, if you're cracking these boxes to sell them, I guess.
Yeah, this one's just worth $20 more out of the box. I think that is how we're going to do the evaluation for this one. That was pretty fun. To the listeners, what do you think of these precons? Any cards that we missed to add that you're like, absolutely this one, plus it has Fallout flavor, let us know. Any cards that we suggested to take out or add that you disagree with. Let us know if you think our special results are off as well. We talked about a lot of Magic cards today. If you want to pick up any of those, or if you want to pick up either of these sealed precons, you can do so at cardkingdom.com/command. It's a great way to support this channel without spending any extra money. Your Magic players, we know you're buying Magic cards. You're doing it. So just bookmark this affiliate link, and you can always be supporting the Command Zone while you're shopping. Plus, you know that you're buying from a vendor that has a lot of professionalism and a lot of just Magic cards. You can get a huge selection. You can get exactly the card that you're looking for in exactly the printing with exactly the condition because they have such a huge selection. And then all of those cards will show up on your doorstep in one safe package. It makes deck building so much easier and so much less of a headache when you're not trying to chase down envelopes in the mail. Again, you can shop for Magic cards while supporting, I was at Card Kingdom, but also Card Kingdom at cardkingdom.com/command.
This has been a long episode, huh?
We've talked about so many Magic cards. You can also support the show by going to ultrapro.com/command. UltraPro has a ton of sweet accessories. If you're into either of these decks, go check out their website. They have all of the officially licensed Magic art. So if you were into this set or MKM or any of the sets previous, honestly, go on their website, check out what's on sale. They have flash sales from sets previous. And sometimes you'll be like, I loved the art from like Aftermath with like all the poster heads and stuff.
That was so cool.
It's a really, really cool playmat that is still available on the UltraPro website. So go check it out and you can get high quality Magic products for cheap before they sell out. You can do so while supporting the show as well at ultrapro.com/command.
The link is right here. I'll mark it on your map.
Big thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. Thank you to Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Gulati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, Mitch Trafford, Josh Lequai, Jimmy Wong, and of course to Jake Boss.
Thank you.
You've been very, very busy, so I appreciate you talking Fallout with me.
I couldn't miss this. This was it's given me so much joy to work on this episode of Game Nights that's coming out. And think to yourself, I'm not going to say who, but think to yourself, who would the perfect guest be for this episode of Game Nights? Think about it. Comment below with your guess.
And maybe we got him.
You might be right. There's a really good shot.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace. Hit it. Hit it. No.
I was about to take you out.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.